change every day. I know that we're here to stay, going to the moon.
So, welcome back to another installment of Alex and the Moon Gals podcast. I'm just joined by one Moon Gal today, but what a Moon Gal she is. Hello, Vicky. And the XRPL news and community behemoth that is Digital Assets Daily. Welcome, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to have someone on who's kind of so involved in the XRPL and always so positive, because that's really what made us approach you is, what positive influence you are in the space, and obviously very informative. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's an honor, and I appreciate it. And it's nice meeting you, Victoria and Alex, kind of face to face through the Zoom as well, across the world, halfway across the world. So it's very exciting, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Could you start just by telling us a little bit about how you got into where you are now, your journey to become Digital Assets Daily?
Sure. It's kind of an interesting journey, and I'll start from the beginning and catch you up to where we are today. I'd actually owned 4 corporations, 3 C Corp and 1 S Corp. So I worked a lot of hours, So doing the research, the transition over to this was a pretty brief and easy transition. And then for most of my life, I'd worked multiple jobs, and this is how it starts connecting to crypto. I'd, been a professional skateboarder for over 20 years. And then I traveled like as a musician. I was a singer, songwriter, like frontman of a couple of different rock bands. You get signed by a record label, you're moving all over, you're traveling, you're playing 2 or 3 shows a week. So that's how I came about meeting so many different people in the industry that's where it's grown today. And that's how, as far as speaking, it was not a big deal because I was always just up on stage, obviously entertaining. So short end of that story, in connecting to my skate career, a friend of mine from the US Virgin Islands had, mentioned back in the day, he said, there's a thing called Bitcoin. I don't know how familiar you are. It's called cryptocurrency. So, going back, pre-2015, it's kind of, for me, the beginning was 2015. I'd followed Bitcoin since it was 25 cents. But the thing where the turn was 2015, where I took it a little more serious. So my friend from the US Virgin Islands, he called and he said, look, there's a thing called OpenCoin. They have a currency called Ripples. You're gonna want to check it out and want to follow it. So, I'd followed them, pre like the transition to where OpenCoin became Ripple. Technically Ripple Labs Inc. And then Ripples became XRP. So I think, I'm a little probably more forgiving. A lot of the XRP maxis tend to say, it's not Ripple, it's XRP. But again, if you've been here from the beginning, it literally was called Ripples. So a lot of people who've been around for a long time, they tend to just blend them and they might catch themselves and then dive right back into, XRP. And even David Schwartz had said it, years ago, that he really liked when it was called Ripples and the company was Ripple because it was leaving ripples as far as like the, it goes into the millionth ripple or the decimal place. And I think that was another thing too that caught my attention because David Schwartz said it, but then common sense, if you follow the money, so to speak, made sense to have a millionth decimal place, because if the first place was $10,000, then that makes the millionth decimal place like a penny, which is typical currency as anyone is used to. But if you make the first or the top of the decimal point the $1 million, as David Schwartz says, then the millionth place would be $1, similar to what he says. And the biggest catchphrase that always stuck to me in the beginning is when David Schwartz said, if you have $1 million and you need to transfer it using XRP, you're going to, and it's $1, for example, you're going to need 1 million XRP. But if XRP is $1 million, you're only going to need 1, and you're still transferring $1 million. So those 2 numbers always stuck in my head. And that's where I never was much into the trading, but I saw the potential for the long-term aspect and use case and utility of XRP, especially if it was going, and quote the cliche that we always hear, for all the money.
Mm.
But if you realize there's so much more, I think, volume of currency and money globally that isn't like necessarily like accounted for. I don't want to put it in a weird position, but it's the number is much, much higher than most of us are even aware of. So having said that, when you think of all the money, it's pretty significant. Even Swift, you're talking, what is it, like $5 trillion a day? I think it's somewhere around 1.2, 1.4 quadrillion a year. That's Swift alone. And then you're not even like, that's a snowflake on the iceberg of like derivatives. And to me, that's when we really start moving all the money. So for me to fall in love with like the XRP, from, you know, having a friend, that's how it all connected from my past career into this. And then even recently, what I found more exciting was you know, from crypto retirement, basically, this is my 3rd month. I literally, you know, I just turned 49 last December, and it's, you know, I finally hit like where I can retire from crypto, which has been very exciting. So that's given me more time to dedicate to research and to help others. And the past 3 months, man, has been really every single day helping other people, you know, change their life with investing. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, but it kind of grew from my inner circle, just random people asking questions. And even in my inner circle, my friends and family, I tell them, look, know the risk. And this is a big thing that I constantly do with our channel that's a little bit different than a lot of the other channels. We don't hype, number one. We're going to show you the facts, number two. Let you make your own choice and your decision from like reading and seeing the facts. We, you know, it's really hard sometimes to not be excited. So I try to tone it down. And I think there's so much going on. It's hard not to be excited on the show. So I try to like calm down a little bit and then just give it a flat, like not flat boring, but flat like emotion to the show, where it's like your daily news, like your news channel. And that's kind of the perspective, because originally it started, I was following a couple of shows, and those guys have actually become, you know, acquaintances throughout this little journey, like Digital Asset Investor. There's another guy, I don't know if he goes with his real name, but we'll call it like the Bullish Family. I'm totally blanking on the other name because now that I know him as a person.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you dox,
okay,
right?
can I say his name out loud? I'm not sure if he wants that public. You know what I mean? I'm just totally blanked on the on his real name. But I think it's the journey has been really cool. You know, even I don't know how to say that correctly, but again, another acquaintance, which, you know, on the light scale of things, Bearable Bull. I mean, you've gotten to Jordan Harry, like a few other people, you just start becoming friends with them because you guys all have something similar. You're kind of on the same path, so to speak. But the amazing people, and even like yourself, Alex, we've, you know, kind of talked back and forth publicly, privately. I mean, you just meet so many amazing people in the space that it makes it more fun on your journey, because we're all in this together. We're taking high risk. And that's again why I promote, treat this as earned income, not so much like you won the lottery. Because a lot of people, the first thought, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, let me clarify. If you go out and you buy mansions and you go out and you buy your Lambo, because that's the whole thing with crypto, is like win Lambo, like win Moon, etc. And those are great. I always say those are great. But I say at the same time, if you're making just enough investments to kind of replace your salary or an earned income, think of it as earned income, not so much lottery. And the separation in my perspective is this: if you treat it as a lottery, you could win $10 million and you're broke in 12 months. But if you treat it as income and you think you've worked your whole life to establish that income, you're going to protect it a little bit more cautiously. So I always say, you know, get a financial advisor, get an attorney, get an accountant. You know, you don't have to have them full time, but at least pay them to put you on the right course and the right track. For example, I have a friend who's a financial advisor, and I'd always spoke to him before, you know, like 4 or 5 years ago, said, what's a good plan? And his immediate response was, in the 2 to 6% range, is like absolutely safe. You can sleep through that and get that return annually. He said in the 6 to, I think it was like 10% range is like still a medium to low risk. But now if you're going to 12 to 30%, it's high risk. You could lose everything. So I was thinking to myself, okay, what would be the perfect median? And that's like 8%. And one thing that I like to promote is this: if you have $1 million, suppose everybody's investment, you make $1 million on XRdoge. Suppose 1,000 investors make $1 million like this year or next year on XRdoge. It explodes as an example. The first thing a lot of people are going to do is, I'm going to go out and buy this new house. I'm going to go out and buy this new car. And now I've got 150,000 left over if they didn't spend everything, because they're thinking, I'll keep working and pay like the interest. I'll pay the insurance and everything at the end of the year, and I'm good to go. But the thing that, like, to me, that's kind of crushing. You just lost an opportunity because you had $1 million, now it's gone. My perspective is, if you make $1 million, let's keep it on XRdoge, since that's kind of the family that we're discussing in this community. So if you make $1 million this year, my perspective is this: talk to that financial advisor, get 8% interest annually, and have them write you an interest check at the end of the year. Pay taxes on that. Even on $1 million, 8% is $80,000 a year. That's kind of life changing. If you have $80,000 a year for the rest of your life, you're still a millionaire. You still have the $1 million, your initial, gained or earned income, but now you're getting $80,000 a year for life. Your life literally changes. You can buy all those other things and pay for them, and if you choose, keep working or retire. So that's really it. I started the show. Sorry, I keep wanting to say his real name. From like the Bullish family, and he kind of taught me. He said, "Look, if you start a channel, I'll support it." And I was like, I don't know if I have time. My wife thought it was a crazy thing. She's like, you're already working unbelievable hours. He's like, how are you going to do this? So I said, you know what? If I'm investing, or I should say researching for my investments, I'm trying to follow them daily, because things can change. The space is very, very fast. I mean, you can have like the golden goose, and tomorrow they moved on to the silver goose, which became the golden goose. It's a fast world. You can't control and predict what banks and economies and governments are going to choose. So having said that, he supported the channel, and then, the channel grew faster than we expected. Obviously, we're not huge. We just hit 44,000 on Twitter yesterday. We started in 2019. I think we're just under 13,000 on YouTube. And I know it could have grown faster, because I've seen the videos where it was really based on price and energy. I don't want to say hype, because we show the facts in every video, but on the energy of that versus the content that the experienced investor has, where he goes, oh, okay, England just used this. Okay, Lithuania just used this. For example, like NEM, XEM or NEM, they have their two different name and ticker, was one of the first to be released as being the CBDC of Lithuania like 3 or 4 years ago. And so you have assets like that. You have like assets like Stellar, which is the chosen CBDC of Ukraine. There's so much more where if somebody's looking at the surface, they're not seeing these things, but the research exposes it, because it's not hidden. It's just, 1 or 2 levels below the surface. So having said that, the investment that I was doing for my own investment, I was explaining to my wife, I said, there's a lot of investors that are so experienced and they're just ready to quit because they can't find anything. They have no time to research. I'm researching for our protection. I want to know if it changes. I want to be able to sell this and buy the next one that's going to be replacing it. So that's kind of how it all began. And that was the birth of this channel.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for your approach, in that you say you try not to be kind of over the top, hype-ish, clickbaity. You're going to build, you might not have the huge spike straight away of maybe as quickly a spike of subscribers as you might get if you were kind of, shouting at the screen and smash that like button and all that. But you're probably going to get a steadier, you'll have more longevity as a channel, is kind of my instinct. So I think that's quite a quite a refreshing, measured approach.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also as we want it to grow more mainstream, there is a responsibility for as new investors come in. And I think having a channel that is research based and is more realistic is going to be better for people to be able to access rather than the 10 times, 100 times, buy. Uh, which
And
was what I was kind of exposed to when I first came in, because that's all the, the colors, and it's kind of draws you in, and you realize that no, you've got to do your research, otherwise you're not going to last in the space.
absolutely. My greatest thing is this is, when you work hard to establish your income and to build that up over years, I think you're more protective of it, and you have more empathy and sympathy towards others who are doing the same thing. So I think, a great like personal drive, my ambition for this has been that exact thing. Is I get it. For those of us who've been around a long time, some people need that constant push, the riddlers and the hype and all of the things. But I think, again, the reason we were basing or building this channel was for the experienced investor who had invested a lot of time and a lot of money and was just exhausted, just ready to quit and just throw in the towel, just sell it, and like, okay, I'm done. I tried it, didn't happen. So I understand that some people need the constant energy, even those who are investing, properly, like who are investing securely, safely, cautiously. But then the part that was like tearing within me was the new investor who heard that, and they would go out and just sell everything they had, thinking this weekend they're just going to be a billionaire. I'm going to sell everything and buy tons of it. And then, as always, buying in on the FOMO. Every time you have FOMO, you have retracement. And in crypto, the retracement is not a minor one. If somebody is familiar with investing, say stock, like 6 to 12% is probably a significant return on stock. So if somebody goes out there, as they say, sells their car, sells their house, and they just dump it in, they know what they're going to get return. It's pretty steady. But in cryptocurrency, it's not. If you're on the FOMO on that 1000% rise and you bought the top, tomorrow it could possibly drop 90%, because as the crypto saying goes, if you cannot handle the 90% retracement or dip, you'll never see the 1000% gains. So that's why I try to keep it a little bit more steady and explain, okay, the content I'm covering is going to benefit all of the assets we discuss, because that's the foundation for them. That's the behind the scene, what's building them. But don't expect it immediately. And since 2019, I took kind of a beating on the channel because you'd have tons and tons of, and I love the XRP family, the community, but the maxis of that and the BTC, I was getting beat from both ends, because here's my point. 2019, there was a huge push. I don't know how long you guys were into the, followed XRP or been into crypto, but 2019, it was huge.
Yeah.
By that Christmas, everyone was saying, we're going to the moon, we're buying Lambos, we're going vacations, everyone's retiring. I said, well, no, not really, because I'd been around since Bitcoin was 25 cents. I had only found one other guy, and he was a Bitcoin maxi who kind of was on the same path that I was. I love following patterns. I love to see patterns, and like instantly I'll find a pattern. But having said that, I found out back then that we were on a 4-year cycle. So I was saying, we're not going to hit another bull run until 2021. And we did, right on the 4-year cycle, perfectly. And I'll go into more on that as well. But the only two that were really held out from that bull run cycle of 2021 was XRP and XLM. Everything else made new all-time highs. So if you were to pull those two out of it, I mean, my projection was, 98% right on schedule. And the only thing that removed those is because in the original 2021, the ISO 20022 was going to go live in November. then they moved it to January, then they moved it to March, then they moved it to June, and now it's this year in November, basically 12 months later. So if everything stays on track, and as Christine Lagarde said, multiple times the past few years, the banks will get on board or they will cannibalize themselves. And as she said, that is not a nice word in her own words, but there's a reason I say that, because she needed everyone on the system so that they could move forward with the new financial system. And I've shown since 2019 on the channel all of the connections of XRP XLM, and they're pretty much on the wholesale level XRP or Ripple, RippleNet, etc., ODL, and the Stellar network. I mean, everything is built either directly or indirectly on those two. So they immediately became the favorite, and that's again because XRP Ledger is such a big thing. The inner ledger, all the money. I love all the assets on that, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt and support them. And again, that's how I run into you, Alex, and it's been great ever since.
Yeah, you've been a great kind of. You tweeted, I think it was either yesterday or today, a rising tide raises all ships, and I think you've kind of the way I've seen you support a lot of good projects on the XRPL is kind of like, that seems to be the mindset you embody. Like, let's not snipe one down to benefit another. It's like, if they're running on the network you believe in and they're well intentioned, let them thrive. Absolutely.
And I mean, if for people who know finance, it will never, ever, ever be like one coin takes them all. It isn't even possible, because there's so many different layers and so many different levels. Even in the financial system, it's really 3 tiers, even though we focus on the 2. You have wholesale, you have retail, and you have trade. And again, how I factored in my 4 top that we discussed on the channel and their ecosystems. For example, I didn't want to invest as a retail investor because I'm just an investor as well, like everyone else. I have gains, I have losses. But after you're in it a while and you've made enough gains, the only loss, which was a recent, I don't want to throw them under the bus because I don't think it was intentional. I just think they were a smaller, asset. And I think their community wasn't large enough to get it out to everyone. I could have helped them had I known, because I know a handful of people are affected by that. But there was a swap on one of the assets, and they didn't kind of let everyone know. And the timeline was very, very short. It was like,
I know a couple of them.
Like 30 days
you might be
or something.
talking about. Yeah.
You probably know them by name, but I didn't want to throw it out as a bad thing. I'm only throwing it out as this is part of the crypto investment. When you come in, I'm only tossing it out for new people to hear it. You have to follow your assets. And even still, the things that people say could be an S coin, as they label them, can still make millionaires. I mean, you've seen it, we've seen it. I mean, think of this, Elon Musk, who thought he would choose Dogecoin? Doge made a lot of millionaires, even though they've stated we started this project as a joke. We have an infinite number of supply. We can print infinitely forever. Like, there's no cap. I mean, and he made a lot of Doge millionaires, like just from Elon Musk tweeting it. So, I mean, you can see on that. So other than that, that is the only loss I really have out of all of it, because I did enough research that you could see what they're building. And to finalize the point of that discussion was, for me, I didn't want a competitive investment, so to speak. So knowing the tiers of the new system, I focused on those with XRP was my wholesale investment. Stellar was my retail investment. XDC was my trade supply investment. And VeChain was my supply chain investment, because they are the top of exactly what they're designed to do. There's no competition for that. But now you have other assets like Quant, you're connecting, chains, and you have other assets that are having the new interoperability, integration, and cross-chain capabilities. Even Stellar just came out with one, at least they promoted it yesterday. So now they're going to have a cross-chain and be the bridge capability from Stellar to Ethereum.
Wow,
so
I didn't know that.
So much like just going on. I try to share as much as I can. I research again, like I said, to know my personal investments success, but I share it so that others like me will have that knowledge too. And that's really just it.
And
Yeah.
I mean, Alex and I are very interested in how we can get talk about crypto in education. I was a teacher for 17 years, so a transition from being a teacher into crypto.
Classic transition.
Where do you see potentially the future of crypto in education? It's still, I think, a long way off, but would you see it as an important thing to try and promote amongst the next generation?
Absolutely. I see it as a huge thing. And first off, thank you for, what you've done as a teacher. For me and my family, education is a huge thing. Like, it's the first thing, because everything is built off of our knowledge. You know what I mean? And if I'm going to be direct, like for example, I'll just put it this way. I'm going to rephrase it just to make more sense. Like my brother, he's my older brother. I'm the youngest of the family. So you have like your oldest, if you're not the only child, you idolize them. They're the coolest thing ever. He was a reader. So by him reading, I wanted to be like my big brother, and I'm just going to read tons of books. So at 6 years old, I was reading like his best thing was like the optimism, like the personal success, like financial success, etc. So at 6 years old, it was literally like my chocolate. I would read like all the time, read so many books. And so I kind of do the same thing with my kids. And a thing that I had made, I don't want to go rambling off. It's easy for me to just keep going sideways on that one. I'm sorry. But one thing I'd learned is, the more someone reads, the more knowledge you have. So basically, if you're going to dive straight to the point, the higher your IQ, the higher potential for success you have. Not everybody was born a genius, and not everybody who was lower on the IQ remained there. Point is if you want to, the factor, I should say, and as a teacher, you understand this. If you want to expand your vocabulary, it doesn't matter where you were born or where you came from, read. So we know that shared knowledge is like the greatest thing ever. And again, coming back to, that's why I share so much on the channel. But I believe literally kids should know this, because it is a future. And one thing that's really great, combining what you were saying with what just happened yesterday here in my state. Being here in Florida, we have a governor, Ron DeSantis. He just passed a thing stating that he wants every single kid in this state to graduate being financially literate. Like, have to pass, like being able to budget, understanding finance, understanding payments, understanding, bills, debt, etc. That is amazing, because that is not, hasn't been done since, I went to high school.
No, I mean, when I went to university, we still paid with checks and what have you. And we weren't taught how to write a check, how to balance a book, how to do, budget for shopping. One may argue that there's a certain responsibility from your parents, but not everyone comes from a family that maybe their parents would support them in that area. But 100%. And it's something that Alex and I, as I say, are really keen. I've got 3 children, 2 are at secondary school, and I would absolutely support them learning more about it's that financial freedom. And my concern for new people coming into crypto, like you say, is because they won't necessarily have worked that day-to-day job and have a real value of money. If they go straight into crypto and it is abstract, then that's where they may make great losses, because they don't really understand its true value and potential. And I think schools have a responsibility to acknowledge that and ensure that that isn't the case.
Absolutely.
I think if they did a study, obviously you'd have to run this in some sort of simulation, computer simulation, because we haven't really got the time to trial it. But if you could see the impact on the economy of a given country 20 years after changing the curriculum to make kids financially literate, it would be kind of fascinating just to see what it would change. But maybe we will be able to see, but we'll just have to wait.
I think there will be potentially some reluctance, because crypto is also, from what we're seeing, is changing where the wealth is. And the shift in terms of which class has the money is changing. And a lot of the more old school, I don't think, are going to see that as a positive, where that's what Alex and I really like. That's what attracted us to XRP and the XRPL, because it's inclusive, because you can start off with any amount. You don't have to get a loan. You don't have to have been to university, as long as you're able to spend some time researching, but you can come in with an amount, and you can make money. But not everyone's going to like that.
Absolutely. And okay, you guys kind of led a discussion to where I stopped. I'm going to come back to the conversation, but Victoria said something really amazing there, because I think, you know, moving forward, I'll just give you from my example, because then it kind of explains itself. From, you know, when I first got married, and, you know, we had the child on the way, and we were discussing, you know, as we're shopping, you're getting, you know, your diapers, your infant needs at the store, you know. There's a few kids we saw just screaming, "Mommy, Daddy, I want this toy." I like screaming, and the parents like, "No, you can't have it. I already bought you something. No, you can't have it. No, Mommy, I want this toy," just screaming in the top of their lungs. So we turned to each other and we were frightened, like, "Oh no, what if this is us?" And then, you know, she kind of giggled and she goes, "I think, you know, I think we'd be able to do better than that." I said, "Okay, look, I have a plan." And, you know, actually, my youngest is 7, my daughter, the only daughter in the family. Then I have an 11-year-old, I have a 14-year-old, and I have a 23-year-old. 23-year-old also from investing, same, obviously, you know, I kind of guided him into this because I'm looking out for his future. He was actually working for one of my businesses, but he retired 3 months ago alongside me from crypto because of his success in crypto. At 23, I'm excited at 49. And my son's retiring at 23, half my age. So I think that's pretty impressive. And now he does, you know, he has his little YouTube channel and does his video games, and he just has fun. But he's responsible way more as far as like financially saving, and he has debt free, and he has really good amount saved up in the bank, plus constantly coming in every month. And I've been very proud of him. So moving beyond that, he's already like on his own, a successful young man doing excellent. What I told my wife at the beginning, I said, "Here's a plan." I said, "Let's just try this and see if it works." Because what I wanted to do is teach my kids the value of money. Because if they understand the value of money, you know, forget like the price of stuff, but if they understand the value of money, they instantly understand the price to purchase that, for example, that toy. So my kids, when they were 2 and 3 years old, were like, "How much is this, Daddy?" Because what I did is this. I said, "Baby, I'm going to give the kids $5 a week, an allowance," because then you have something to, you know, reflect upon. And I'll get to that really quickly. I said, also, for every 100 they get in school, I'm going to pay them $1. For every A they get on the report card, I'm going to give them $5. And for every book they read, I'm going to give them another $1. So my kids are like, "Daddy, I'd like to buy this." I'm like, "Well, son, in your account, you have $8. That costs 10. You can read a few books, or you can get a few 100s in school tomorrow. And then, you know, you'll have enough to buy it, you know, in a day or two." So they're like, "Oh man, okay, Dad. Okay, what books can I read when I get home?" I said, "You know, we'll check then." But it helped the kids because, you know, even when they were 2 or 3 years old, now we have 7, 11, and 14. We literally, knock on wood, never had to go through that screaming child at the store, because I said, "Look, in your account, this is what you had. This is how much you've earned. You don't have enough for it today. But if you want to keep earning those good grades, keep getting A's, read a few more books, you know, you can get it." That's something I tried, and, you know, over the past, you know, with 4 kids, it's worked amazing. But that's helped, you know, to where my oldest son is a success now. He's retired from crypto, but he has a lot of money in the bank, and it's very impressive. You know, he has a car he paid off. The only bill he has is like a cell phone bill and his, you know, like the insurance on his car, which is like your revolving debt that you can never get rid of that. But so
I mean,
that's
I
something
think
I
it's
work. So I agree with you, Victoria. Like, teach the kids the power of money. Teach them how to invest and budget, and they'll be better adults. You know.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I would see it as a teacher, and And as a parent, you become more aware. And I mean, I saw a fabulous tweet the other day about how when you look at the price of whether it's a dress, don't look at the price, think about how many hours have you had to work to pay for that dress, put some context around it so that when you do come across some money, your first paycheck, or when you do well on crypto, you understand the value. And I do worry about younger people going into it and having those extreme regrets. And also it's very public now for young people. What's not, they'll go on Twitter, I've made this, look at this house I've bought. 6 months later, they're bankrupt. Not, it's bad enough having it in private, but now for a lot of young people, that will also be out in the, in the public world. And I think that's an added pressure for them.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And again, that's why, like, everyone that I talk to, I say, treat every penny from crypto, your success, as earned income, not a one, like WON, like the lottery, you won that, not as a one income. Because if you treat it as earned, I mean, if you found $100, the first thing somebody does is, oh, let's go buy some, let's go buy some drinks. Let's go have a celebration. That money's gone. But if you treat even that $100 that you found on the ground as earned income, whether it took somebody 3 or 4 hours or whatever to earn that, then they're like, you know what, maybe I'll pay extra on my credit card. Maybe I'll put that in savings. So it's just altering the mentality, I think, is extending the longevity. Because if you can extend how long you can live, in real true freedom, meaning debt free, that's really living. And as they say, so many people walk around afraid to die, not even realizing they're more afraid to live.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can just live like true freedom, that is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I often say to people, I look around and the standard of living may have gone up, but the quality of living has gone down for many people. But it's how they choose to spend that time. And I think crypto has given us an opportunity, and will give lots of people the opportunity, as you say, to be financially free. And we know that money tends to be the biggest cause of arguments, of breakups, of divorces, all those sorts of things. Because it's an emotional subject. And if we can teach children early on not to deal with money emotionally, but to do it in a rational way, we will increase that chance of success. So, thank you. That's absolutely. I'm going to make sure I take more of that away. My two elders are 14 and 13. I'm trying to get them into crypto. One's got an NFT, and the other one's not so interested at the moment, and a 2.5-year-old. So maybe I'll focus on her.
Yeah, Dillis is going to be reading 10 books a day.
Yeah. I'm going to transfer her savings. No. But yeah, absolutely. And just speaking to them about the world and the opportunity. They're very artistic and musical, and I'm explaining to them that actually your job opportunities will be very different to how they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I think that's also exciting for crypto. We work with lots of talented artists for the NFTs and musicians for the songs that we want made. And it just shows you that crypto can provide opportunity for a bigger range of people than it may initially look.
Absolutely. And one thing I love that you said about music, you said you had your daughter does music?
Yes, my 2 children. Yeah, they're both. My husband's a musician.
Even better. One thing that, I grew up playing, I was 6 when I first started playing piano. I was 12 when I first started playing violin. A teenager, obviously, when you get into guitar, because if violin is strings. So it was easy to switch over with your fingers, not hurting so much pushing the strings on a guitar, but it was the same notes as the piano, because then piano is also a percussive and a stringed instrument. It falls into 2 categories. And then in school, 7th through like 10th grade, I'd always play percussion like my kids. So a thing that I love when parents get their kids into music is this. I believe music makes for better, like more intelligent kids because of this reason. Doesn't mean that if they don't play it, that they're any smarter or lesser. It just means that they're training their brain to become smarter for this reason. If for example, I don't even know what the level is. As a teacher, you probably know, like, do you still have the A, B, C, D, E, F, like the grading system in?
No, they changed it to a number system.
Okay, how does the number system work today? Obviously,
So
it changed.
So it'll go the same. So it goes from 1 to 9, and then it has stars and all sorts. But I'm primary, so we unfortunately can focus more on the progress rather than the grading. But yeah, it's ultimately the same as grades. They just switched it to numbers.
Okay, then let's go with numbers for a second. I don't know, a teacher is going to correct me in your comments, believe me. But let's say from, I don't know what's passing, say 65 to 100. If say 95 to 100, if that's an A, if somebody gets a 95, like every single grade, that's really, really, really impressive. But now take that in music. If you hit 95% of the correct notes, that's horrible. So the thing that I love about musicians is they have to get 100% right, or 99.9999 infinite correct, or you're going to hear that instrument and it's going to stand out in that song like massively. You're probably going to re-record it and do the whole thing over until you're 100% correct. So one thing I've always loved about musicians is they're so trained to get 100% of the notes correctly that whenever they go to class, anything less is not acceptable. They want that 100%. So music, it does make for great, like better learning, better students.
So Alex and I were asked this on the spot last week, and actually we were like, so I'm going to ask you the same question. So top of your head, what would be your top 5 favorite bands or musical, musicians? Top of your head.
U2, since I was 15, With or Without You. Absolutely love the entire dynamics of the song. It's just amazing. I'm a big fan of, the Smiths, of Morrissey. We were going with bands, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say a huge impact. Number 3, I'd say The Cure. A huge fan of The Cure. Number 4, I would say Depeche Mode, because musically, I just spent so many years, like that was my transition into, like, I would say growing into the adult. So their music was an impact on that. 5th, it'd probably be, that one's a tricky one. And the reason I would say is, I just totally blanked on his name, but he has this song. I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's You Raise Me Up. Josh Groban.
Yes, I was gonna
More
show
of a
my
jazzy type,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Something like that. So I'd say those would be like my top 5, because even that song is so powerful. You know what I mean?
Songs are powerful, absolutely. I think the power of music is just fascinating, absolutely, for just creating memories, moods, all those sorts of things. And no, I'm a big Smiths fan in our house, and growing up. I did actually sing the song of my dad once, when I was telling him to shut his mouth, which was very rude, but I felt if I did it through a Smiths song, I might get away with it.
Did you do the Morrissey unusual tone?
No. I soon realized I shouldn't have done it. Anyway. Okay, so we're going to go on to a little bit of a couple of games. So Alex, do you want to kick us off?
Well, this game can be short depending on how inspired you're feeling. But if someone put you on the spot today and said, we need you to name this coin, go, and you don't have any time to really plan it, what's the name of your coin that you're gonna birth right now?
If I was to birth a coin right now,
Sounds
I would
painful.
probably get it wrong upon the spot, but I would say like StarNet. I know that sounds like simple, but if we're thinking galactic, if we're thinking, my first thought comes to mind is like Elon, because he's trying to take payments outer space. And then I think immediately to what Brad Garlinghouse said, and I think they've even made a few like little ads in regards to that, how we can fly to the moon and text each other and we're receiving the messages instantly, but we can't do that in payments. So my first immediate response would be like StarNet, because it would be the universal, literal, like coin that could go anywhere in the solar system or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I like that. And
And
that's yeah.
yeah,
That's
sponsorship with SpaceX or something.
yeah.
There you go. And then the name just fits even better. And which is cool, like living here, my youngest son, he's such a fan. He plays these little games, these little rocket games. And you have to literally build them correct. Obviously, you just click and type it on like how much fuel and rockets. And he lands these things on the moon and stuff. So he's a big fan of all that. But we will go offshore fishing. He's 11 now. We've gone every single weekend since he's 3. And we all, like, if we go to Cape Canaveral, we almost always see either rocket launches or the SpaceX returning from having landed with the boosters now with their, you know, their technology to be able to be reusable and
Crazy.
land on the barge and pull them back in and do it again. Repeat.
So they're still launching from Cape Canaveral, are they? I mistakenly thought they'd stop.
All like so much.
Nice.
We see 1 to 2 launches every single week.
Amazing.
So there's so many that are constantly going up, even if they're not necessarily scheduled publicly. But our kids, like, they've seen it their entire life. They love it, you know.
Yeah, each week we choose our favorite meme that we have seen on social media, and then we will ask you to choose which is your favorite. We won't tell you whose is whose, but I will tell you Alex is yet to win.
So this is we'll call this number 1, if you can see that.
Yeah.
Did you do that at any point in your investing career or in crypto?
No, I was really, I'm more diverse now than when I started. When I first started, obviously I came in through Bitcoin. It was the easiest to get and it was really cheap at the time. So I was, you know, when I first came in, let's see, I did, you know, I had Bitcoin, I had Litecoin, I had Ethereum, that's it. I had 3. But I'd come in a long time where those were really the only major options as well. So,
well, you probably missed out on a few horrendous losses then of ones that just died on the spot. So that's probably not a bad thing. Okay, meme number 2.
NFTs, I only have a few NFTs. But I actually use those NFTs as their initial design as smart contracts. So I don't have like art or anything cool or fancy.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is interesting. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. So which is your favorite meme? Which is your meme of the week?
I think on the surface, this one is hilarious because I can see that with all the new investors. But personally, I like this one because of the actual, like, I'd see it more funny to someone who's been a long-term investor.
Especially this.
Unlucky, Alex. Unlucky.
But you've handed another victory to Victoria.
Oh, you won again?
One day, Alex. Don't worry.
I know.
So on that.
To be fair, that is a good one because obviously NFTs have massively taken off, and some, especially outside the space, who, you know, perhaps aren't as crypto familiar. They read about them in the papers or whatever, and they just
think
it's
a mainstream way in.
Yeah. So to them, you know, it's such a buzzword at the moment that even this pen, you know, maybe could be labeled an NFT in some way, but we try and keep the standard high.
No, you're doing well.
Thank you. So let me stop sharing there. And related to that, you say that you don't own any NFTs. Well, for art, we would like to change that if we can. And
sure.
We're going to do that. So let me share another different window here. This is your bespoke digital assets daily Schwartz Yourself NFT. So I've seen a picture of you surfing. You've got a surfboard.
Absolutely.
And then a little microphone in his other hand.
That's perfect. And I literally, my like touring mic is exactly like that one, except the little ring is blue. It's the same one that like Coldplay and Elton John uses. The Shure
nice.
58A, Beta 58A. So it looks
Perfect.
literally
So
like the one you have.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good one. So we will, Alex will sort that out, and we will transfer ownership of that to you. And there is your Schwartz Yourself XRdoge NFT. So you are technically then a member of the Happy Kennel Club.
Wow, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. We have learned lots. That's what we love about the podcast is our aim to have something that's accessible for current community and new community, but we're also very fortunate because we get to learn lots as well. And we have learned so much from you. And we are really appreciative of the support online and that your approach is the research approach, because absolutely we endorse that and think that's a really important and really very much needed in the space, especially as more people come in. So thank you for all that you do daily.
Hey.
The moon and far beyond. See green candles every day. I know that we're here to stay. Going to the moon and far beyond. Flying on our own exchange. I know that we're here to stay. Going to the moon.